Okay, welcome. Let's let some people in. Hello.
Looking for my manager, and a refund it takes 10 to 15 working days to refund it back into your account.
That's lovely, thank you.
Hi there, Dom. It's like Sue's on a phone call. Can't hear you there, Dom. Can you put your mic on, mate? Okay, we'll make a start in a couple of minutes. If you've got any questions or you want to turn your mics on, feel free to. It's quite informal, this one. How you doing? Where are you joining us from, Sue?
North Kent College in Kent.
How are you guys getting on?
Yeah, it's been a massive learning curve, really, to be fair.
Yeah, that's about right. It's been in 3 months, ain't it? It's like literally 3 months since we started, really, looking at the calendar. Yeah, so we had Ofsted this week, and yeah, I'll feed back to you guys in a sec. We'll start in 1 minute and I'll record it so people can watch it back as well. But feel free to jump in with any questions or things you want more detail on, because they've kindly allowed us to sort of share what we've been fed back today. So yeah, how about yourself, Dom? Where are you joining us from?
Hampton South Downs College.
Ah, fantastic. Oh, the Kev's gang.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, obviously I follow what you're up to on LinkedIn, etc. And all the EdTech demonstrator stuff looks really exciting. I came up to one of your events a while back when you were talking about Century Tech and how you use Century Tech for English and Maths. And yeah, we've gone ahead and got it. And I mean, for English, but for Maths, brilliant. Really good. So,
yeah, it does. I agree with that, actually. I think for Maths, it's just incredible. The combining of automation and machine learning with great teachers, that's a really sort of a great cocktail. Yeah, for English, we've worked with Century to try and improve it, but I think the subject maybe lends itself more to machine learning, I suppose, than English, which is a bit more nuanced, I suppose.
Yeah, where it's right or wrong sometimes, isn't it? That's where you've got English, you've got to do a lot more to feedback and to understand, whereas Maths, it's in essence yes or no, isn't it? So yeah, it's good.
Exactly,
it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Lovely. Well, so let's just see who else is waiting to join, and I'll get us started in a sec just to talk to you about this week and feedback. Hello, Sky. I work with Sky at BCoT. She's here to answer any questions in the comments if I don't answer them as I'm going through. But this is very informal. This is just a chat. That's what this is, really. So feel free to jump in and ask any questions at all. All right. Okay, just double check one more time. Anybody else waiting in our waiting room? Sky, can you see our waiting room there? If not, it's no problem at all. I can let people in.
No, I don't think I can.
That's no problem at all. Okay, thank you for joining us, everyone. So this is a chance for us to sort of share some feedback from Ofsted, really, because we had them in this week as part of their online learning review. And this online learning review is research-based. It isn't Ofsted in the sense that we're used to thinking of Ofsted, and it's led to some really interesting feedback, which I'm keen to sort of share with as many people as possible. So let's have a look here. So we had the feedback after a 2-day review. Monday and Tuesday they were in. They chose 4 areas to have a look at, and they gave us the following feedback. I'll keep it generic to anonymise people, of course, and to keep it as fair as I can. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
But for leaders and managers in particular at the college, they commended the fact that the prep work they had put in place, the seeds they'd planted, as it were, led to the staff being briefed and able to receive training on what they needed before lockdown. So my colleague Sky, for example, and Holly, who's just joining us now, were able to create resources, how-to documents, video walkthroughs of how to use different tools such as Google Meet, we use quite a lot, by senior management team being agile and adapting to the circumstances and being able to prepare people and train them. That was commended in the sense that it was really crucial for staff to have time to practice, whether it be in their classrooms using Google Meets or having the support. Luckily at our college we have the wonderful Sky and Holly available to go and help people with that training in one-to-ones in particular and small teams. That was identified as being something they wanted to see more of, it's fair to say. The pre-work, they called it, was highlighted as being integral, and the changing of our inset day, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Sky and Holly, was originally going to be a well-being day, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah, and we adapted it, of course, because we had to, because we realised that this is going to be a different few months ahead of us. So we adapted it to provide training for lots of staff on how to use things like Google Meet, how to access our student dashboard to go into a link for their lessons. This 2-week period before the lockdown was identified as being crucial. The fact that all classes carried on in timetabled slots was commended by Ofsted as well, in the sense that it was business as usual. All lessons have been live since lockdown across all of our subjects. This provided good continuity for students who liked the fact there was that weekly ritual, as it were, seeing their digital community, as it were, being able to connect with them. Being cut off has been, as I'm sure you've seen yourself with your students, the most trying aspect of this for many students, not being able to talk and communicate and be with their peers. Having that regular timetabled session was then identified as being something they quite liked. The recording of lessons provided an opportunity for students to review and revisit lessons as well. It's positive adaptation that made learning accessible to anyone who was unable to attend the lesson live for whatever reason. Of course, there's myriad reasons as to why people can't physically, well, physically is the wrong phrase, but be there live. But providing that bottled lesson, as it were, for them to go back and revisit or to watch at a later date when they don't have to look after their little brother, or perhaps they have a bit more privacy, was again commended by Ofsted. The training teams at the college, our learning support team in particular, our RAP tutors who look after the pastoral side of things at the college, our digital team made up of myself, Sky and Holly in particular, and our wonderful IT systems team, being able to support teachers and working with teacher teams and being led by the pedagogy. I was really happy that that phrase got picked up on. In fact, we deferred to them and said, what do you need? How can we help you? And being completely led by the teachers. The individual and team needs being identified was a strong point to differentiate support. So rather than just doing, ironically, like a webinar and just broadcasting information at people, it was a chance for us to work in small teams and with individuals to see what they needed. And that was something that was picked up on as well. As I'm sure you've experienced yourself, you know, that's what it works best that way, as opposed to just one size fits none approaches. Working in small teams with people, what they needed, the nuances were picked up on a bit more. Managers working with teams to show adaptability. So moving exhibitions online, for example, as a book in the creative faculty is something as an example of that. In terms of safeguarding, the one-to-ones that were in place for students, meets or mini meets we call them, because we use Google primarily, and having space in chat groups for students to come and talk and to feel connected, that was something that was picked up on. Using chat or video. Now this is something that many of our students, our more vulnerable students, really benefited from, having that continuity in place. The IT systems team providing Chromebooks for students to work remotely as well. That was picked up on from a form that the college sent out to find out what tech staff and students needed. That helped us identify things. And what was also picked up on was the fact that it wasn't just before the lockdown, it's throughout the lockdown we've been checking with students what they need, because things change, of course. Access to Wi-Fi for learners in need as well, helping where we can with this accessibility feature, which is a prime mover, of course, for a lot of the students. Teachers identifying and picking up on the needs of students, even if they're just represented by letters on a Zoom or Google Meet call, being able to monitor their behaviour and realise that they're not engaging as much, being able to follow up with one-to-ones, being able to follow up with an email, using the learning support team to make sure they're okay. That's continued and it's evolved online as well. The learning support at the college is the things I'm most proud of, and they've really excelled in terms of the support and the care and compassion they've shown for students, and that connectivity to students that's remained. The college has remained open where possible for students to physically come in, but to have that online as well, that was something that was highlighted. Maintaining wellbeing support remotely. Holly, the slides you created for coronavirus support, mental health and wellbeing, they were fantastic. And the fact that they provided so many resources for students to feel connected to little communities and self-help apps, wellbeing and mental health and meditation apps, things like this, they were fantastic, Holly. You curated that list and that was really useful. Dom and Sue, if you want a link to those slides, we're happy to share that with you, by the way. Access to online content and checking on student well-being was commended. Not only were learners who could not engage given Chromebooks, this was constantly checked on to make sure they had what they needed throughout this period of 3 months, which is fantastic. In terms of teaching and learning itself, there were 4 areas that were looked at, and what was highlighted as good practice was the use of homemade demonstration cameras, using clamps and mobile phones and iPads to demonstrate different practices, using engaging quizzes such as Google Forms and Kahoot in particular, engaging students through Q&A. Their engagement being their attendance is something that's evolved as a bit of a phrase really recently, which I quite like. Rather than just turning up and going off and making a cuppa and then coming back at the end, they're actually engaging the whole time, the whole way through. And the teachers checking on that with lots of formative checks has been picked up on, which I'm really happy about. The use of Google Classroom has been amplified really. Our staff have always been good at that, I'm happy to say, but they've been more proactive than ever in terms of using tools to engage learners that of course Sky and Holly have been there to support them with. Students with learning difficulties have been supported. Learning support members of staff have actually been in the video calls with the students and able to break out into a separate meet call or a separate chat group as and when it's appropriate. But that online support in the actual online space with the student was picked up on as well. Students reported that this way of working has forced them to be flexible, to be more resilient and independent, was a quote from one of the more articulate students, obviously. Individualised progress markers for students as well, whereby, as it's been the case for you no doubt as well, the grading system, as it were, has been paused somewhat in the sense that calculated grades have been the way many of us are finding the grades, of course, for BTECs and other subjects. So the lessons have become really about teaching and learning and skills and progress and portfolio building. So individualised, beating your personal best, progress markers to see their portfolio developing, to see their employability skills grow, to see the way they talk to our clients improve. That was the focus of many of the lessons that were observed. So it wasn't just about the grade, it was about their career. Students engaging well with new content, that was one of the things they really wanted to see. Through quizzes, video assessment feedback, annotation of slides like PowerPoints alongside them to mirror as it is when you're in the classroom and the teacher goes through your work with you and annotates it. The idea that teachers were sharing the screen and annotating it for them to see it and to actually get the feedback live in separate one-to-ones, that was wonderful to see. Students liked that as well and reported back favourably. Students using photos for feedback and creating brands, talking to employers in some lessons as well, writing references collaboratively for each other at the end of their course, because a lot of our courses are finished in the last week or two. But writing references collaboratively together, that was picked up on as being a nice bit of practice and reflecting on their learning. Because of course, this time of year, they're consolidating and reflecting on their learning. the Google Meets and video calls in general being used for well-being catch-ups. That was highlighted. Reinforcing learning, students working on interactive activities, talking to each other, collaboratively completing spreadsheets, slides, documents together as a team. Emphasizing that live element, they had to be there for that. Couldn't be done asynchronously, it was done synchronously, live. Teachers making sure they were engaged, like you would in the classroom, I suppose, checking up on them. You can see, can't you, when you're in the classroom, whether they're with you or not. It's more difficult when you do it online. Like this, right now, I'm constantly looking at you lot, making sure you're with me. And if you're not, I'll mention Sue's name, for example, if I feel she's making too many notes. But you're making notes, you're working hard, so I can see that. But yeah, checking on them, that was something that was picked up on, and that's really good. It's hard to do, really hard to do. You've got like 20 students, and they haven't even turned on their webcam. But if you've got like W's and M's, and you have to ask Wendy, and you have to ask Michael, that was good practice. I'm happy to report back. Making sure they're engaged, picking up learners who are not engaging as well, challenging them. Yes, that's an overview. Things for the sector to consider that were mentioned as well. These are how might we statements, I suppose. How might we best capture the quality of teaching and learning practice online? This was something that was not directly at us, but it was something that Ofsted were looking to consider and talk about. And how might we
First session, because the first session.
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah.
Hello, Vicky? Okay, Vicky, feel free to elaborate your point. Didn't quite catch that. So things for the sector to consider were how might we best capture the quality levels of teaching and learning, observation in terms of feeding it back, improving it across all subject areas. That's something Ofsted are keen to sort of capture, because these wonderful pockets of practice are happening, but how can teaching and learning teams best share that back to their peers? How might we best consider the integration of practical elements of our course? Now, we're at the end of our respective courses at all our colleges and schools, but when it comes to September, thinking about how we best integrate the practical with the online, that's something we all need to think about. Dom and Sue, I'm really keen to hear what you think about that as well, because we've got to best use that live time in the physical classroom with our students, particularly construction, our makeup students, hair, and think about how we best use the online lessons to support that practical time. And that's something we all need to think about. That was just raised by us all at the end of this visit. Making sure students are more conscious of the risk of being online more. Now, as a college, we've ingrained it, and Holly and Sky write a wonderful digital induction for all the students at the beginning of every year, which is a 1 or 2 hour mini course, as it were, whereby students get to use these tools and be more conscious of the way they use this digital pencil case and how they collaborate and use the cloud and submit work online, and think about the way they come across as well on social media, but making that embedded all the way through the year, because many students might not remember a great tutorial, for example. Making it a constant part of our teaching and learning, where we make them aware of safeguarding, raising awareness, and being conscious about the way we behave online. Now, our Chromebooks were protected with the firewall, with the Smoothwall software that was installed on them, but they're using their own devices a lot more as well. Got to think about these things across the sector. And lastly, how might we test that students are developing knowledge and skills and behaviours at the beginning of the year? Those constant formative checks, those constant little checks on learning need to be picked up on to see their progress more. Now, I've got some more feedback as well, but I just want to stop at this point because it's strange to talk uninterrupted for 15 minutes. I want to know any other points that you want to hear more about, really. So Dom and Sue, if you've got any points you'd like to hear more about, I've got some more feedback here, but now's a good time to stop to hear what you think.
Can you hear me okay?
All good.
Yeah. Real. So we're using Google, as you know, with Kev at HDC. We use Google Meet and all the whole suite. What we struggle with the most is actually getting the college to allow us to have video calls with students. We had a blanket ban for months
a lot for video calls at all, then it was eased slightly. All the stuff that I see you do on LinkedIn, it's interactive. You've got all the print screens of the student work and the students engaging. I mean, if you've got any advice, or I mean, how did you think to hit the ground running with video calls, where a lot of other colleges, I think, struggle to get that buy-in from SLT?
Yeah, we're very lucky we've got a senior leadership team who are so proactive and so embracing of these, I suppose, risks you might call them. And it's our principal, Anthony Bravo. He role modelled it. He appeared on camera, shared a screen of his little boy playing in the garden, and embraced the fact this is a great way to learn and engage. And luckily, we're going to be working with you closer, actually, Dom, and Kev, as part of the EdTech Demonstrator project. So I'm really looking forward to meeting with your senior leadership team and talking to them about the benefits of this and how we can do it in a safe way, that's secure, with their logins, that's recorded, that's protected. And we've had 3 months of doing it now across all subjects every week. So we'll work with your senior leadership team. I'm really keen to do that because evidently you see some value in it, and it's not a replacement, it's just an enhancement of remote learning, and it's something that, if used well, can keep things moving, and our students have kept learning, which is, to me, the biggest thing here.
I mean, we use it for staff training, it's fine. I teach mainly HE for the university, so we're allowed to because it's franchised with the university. I mean, like you said, I'm talking now, I can see other people nodding, Sky nodding, and you can see people, you can interact slightly. If I've got just loads of letters in front of me, I don't know if the students are there. I'm hoping they are. I can do some activities with them to try and keep them engaged, but it's quite easy, isn't it, to turn your camera off, mute your mic, pop to the toilet, just go out the garden quick, pop back. You might even have wireless headphones on, so you can wander around the house listening in and quickly go back to your laptop when you've been asked a question. And that's for me the biggest barrier, and it's interesting to hear what you guys are doing. And if you are working with us on our, SLT, etc., then that's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm really excited about getting going, Dom, actually.
The video camera bit's really important, isn't it, for mental health? I mean, if you don't see screens and you don't see anyone from, just being sent something by email to get on with, it doesn't do anything, does it, other than overwhelm you with a pile of work. And it's that interaction. Some of the students come to college because they want to feel safe. They're coming from somewhere, aren't they? This is their safe place. We can still do a little bit. That's obviously what you've been doing, is we can still give them that little bit of safe space, with the tutors they've built a relationship with, and it's really important. So it's a little bit limiting, isn't it, for you, Dom, that they've told you can't do video conferencing tools. That doesn't make any sense about well-being and mental health in this time, does it, really?
Well, I mean, as well, just to add to that, Zoom has got a blanket ban at the college. Zoom has just got an app. Zoom is just banned at the college. I don't know the reasons why. Apparently it's something to do with data and capturing and security. And for me, I don't understand the difference between Zoom, Skype, Meet. It's the same thing. Teams, it's the same thing. But we can use Teams, we can use Meet, we can use Skype, but we can't use Zoom. But for me, I find Zoom Premium the best.
Yeah,
which is what I use at the university. For actually setting a session, sharing screens, the interactiveness, I think Zoom's the best. But again, we can't use it, it just strikes me as strange. I'll stop moaning. My college is actually really good, by the way. I actually quite enjoy working there.
It is a great college.
I'm sure it is, because you wouldn't be there, would you? But yeah.
It's just, I don't know, sometimes, I think, to be honest, it's because I see what you do, Scott, on LinkedIn, and I see the stuff that Kev wants to do, and he's building with his work with Google, etc. It's just those sometimes it's the tiny little things, isn't it? It's the tiny little barriers that make the biggest difference.
I completely agree.
And it's for me as a coach as well. If I'm talking to staff about using Screencastify, Jamboards, Jamboard was blocked for quite a while for some absolutely unknown reason. And you think I could, but then it's not blocked for everyone. So it's strange, but I think it's really interesting. Looking forward to next year, kind of what everything's going to look like. Whether we're looking at kind of 50% capacity classes, 1 metre social distancing. Whether we're looking at, you talked about solutions for next year, whether it's try and hold kind of flipped learning approach in terms of having lectures or more kind of delivery based, and then students coming in for discussion and seminars with a mixture of collaborative tasks online. I don't know. It's interesting though. It's actually quite exciting.
Yeah, I think we've got the weight of history and culture behind us now in terms of using these tools, and students, Lord knows they're doing it already without us all. So I can't wait to sort of see what we do at HSDC, Don, particularly with your impetus behind as well, because clearly you're somebody who can help drive it as well alongside Kev. So that I'm excited at having met you like this today, mate. We can do great things together. But next week we'll have a catch up again, if that's okay, and talk about further.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Nice one. How about
one thing I wanted to add, I think, is quite. Go on, sorry.
No, please go ahead, mate.
One thing I was going to say was it's the things that I've worked out that could be better because of this. I was speaking to the careers manager, and the attendance for us at parents' evening is shocking, absolutely shocking. And you think, well, actually, if you do Google Meet parents' evenings, then potentially your engagement in terms of speaking and seeing parents would be huge. Parents could log on for 5-10 minutes rather than give their whole Thursday evening up. And, it's actually finding the things that could be better because we've gone through this, rather than dwelling on the kind of barriers. I think that's it. I think I wanted to share that. I think for us, it's interesting that there's things that we could do better because we've had to go through this. I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it really is interesting. Pretty much fascinating time in history of education, in fact. So to be doing the jobs we're doing at this time I'm optimistic, because I know you are as well. Sue, how about yourself? How's things where you are?
It's been, quite interesting. I mean, we've not, before lockdown, we did spend a week really getting tutors to learn how to use Teams. We're a Microsoft college. I don't know a great deal about it, to be honest. I've kind of just worked with what I've got. So some of the sessions have been used by Google, by Teams, and some of them have also been using Zoom as a way to, because I find Zoom, like Don was talking about, you can interact with them, you can get them to use the chat box more, you can do reactions. So, and we've had no sort of, they did try to stop it at the beginning, but we've got a massive, great theatre group, music group and stuff like that. So they've used it to do their work. So it's been a mixture really, but I'm not sure everywhere that tutors have been using interactive stuff. I think a lot of it's been done by email or by uploading work through Moodle and things like that. So it's a mixture thing, but I think we've embraced it and moved forward where we were with technology from before. I work with Chris as well, who's on here, but so I think, we're moving in this direction, and the EdTech program that the government's put on, I'm trying to get in with as well. So that, I think it's an ongoing project, but I like some of these things you get ideas from to move forward with.
Yeah, I'm really benefiting from it as well. Sky and Holly, who I work with, we sort of we're benefiting from it as much as anybody else really. It's great to have people to bounce ideas off of, and it's like a team project really, is how I see this for next year. This is peer-to-peer, teacher to teacher support for a year long. It's not just I'll pop into a Zoom call, then wave goodbye. This goes on, and we keep helping each other. So this happened this week with Ofsted popping in. It wasn't a proper Ofsted visit, it was just a research project. And they've kindly allowed us to share some generic information about it, as I did just then. But it's just to get us talking and collaborating, because we've got a challenging few weeks ahead of us, haven't we, in terms of timetabling, thinking about the way things are structured. How about yourself, Sky or Holly? Anything to add at all for the guys? I mean, I know that we're going to be supporting as many people as possible, but have you got any thoughts at all?
I don't think so in particular. I think, as Don pointed out, there's so many individual barriers that can come up, and any sort of questions that we can answer if you reach out to any of us directly, we're more than happy to. Some really interesting points about the video platforms, and for those of you who haven't seen the chat, Heather sent a useful guide. It's just at the top of the chat there. Because with Zoom in particular, I know they have recently updated some of their privacy settings, and it is a bit more secure than previous. So for any organisations that may have looked at that towards the beginning of lockdown, the situation might be a bit different now.
Yeah, I find that as well. How about yourself, Holly? Any thoughts at all?
Again, sort of the same things that have already been raised, really, but sort of what Don was saying earlier about those barriers and things like that. And I think a lot of it comes around the fear of the unknown, or not fully understanding how those systems and things work. So that makes people put those barriers up to sort of not let people use those tools and things. And I think a lot of it is sometimes just breaking it down into smaller chunks where it's like, oh well, let's try this with a small group of people and see how it runs, and if it's successful, like we'll continue and carry on. So yeah, it's interesting how sort of those barriers can come up.
Yeah, as little prototypes would be a good way to sort of test it, I suppose, and in that way we can go forward with that research to show our senior leadership teams something HSDC will look into. Hi there, Chris. I can see your webcam on now, mate. You work with Sue, is that right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I was just kind of keenly listening into stuff, and similar sort of experience really. We're looking at, from my own personal point of view, a little bit of spare time because most of my kids had finished pretty much their coursework, so we're able to play with some of the things that previously perhaps there wasn't time to do. So Flipgrid and engagement activities and building new stuff. Microsoft Stream's been a bit of a revelation. I didn't realise you could grab the screen and use that and push things out, and so it's been quite fun to play with that stuff for now. But now it's just really putting stuff together and building some kind of I don't know if you do this, but some sort of software tool induction package, so that as the kids sign up, sign in, enroll, whatever you want to call it, can they start by having a look at what we do and work on some exercises, those kind of things, because the last thing we want is to overwhelm them with stuff they're not used to.
Yeah, and that's a real possibility. And with staff, isn't it? It's just an ocean of different options, and the anxiety of choice weighs heavily on most people. What we do as our digital induction is we give them the fundamental toolkit. So, for example, we use G Suite by default, but we also use Apple and Microsoft bits as well. But we teach them how to use Google Classroom, how to use Google Drive, and how to actually use the fundamental tools such as docs and the slides and things that are the prime movers really as the toolkit. But it's a really good point you mentioned about getting the key apps, as it were, to identify. Flipgrid is one of those. Had them all create a flip video as part of their digital induction to introduce themselves, or to what I did this year, Chris, was I got them all to introduce themselves and to join the Flipgrid. But if they didn't want to appear on camera, then some of them drew a little smiley face on their finger, and then or they had a little animated version of themselves or a little Lego figure instead, just as a creative way of introducing themselves and participating and differentiating it, rather than forcing everyone to be on camera. Because a lot of the cooler teenagers that we work with, I found they were reticent to engage sometimes. But if we differentiate it that way, we had good success. And in that way, they've used a really cool, vibrant, interesting tool in their first week. And that sets the stall quite nicely.
You were pushing out videos that kind of explain what they needed to do and some text, I guess, and then they just had to respond on the Flipgrid with a set of choices. So you said about the finger thing and the video.
That was in my classroom. Sorry, Chris. Yeah, that was in my classroom. I did that. But in our blended learning induction, or digital induction, as it were, we're lucky to have the 2 hours or 2 1-hour sessions in the first 2 weeks where the students come in, and the purpose of that time is to get used to the toolkit, to practice, to play, because digital learning is embedded and baked into the curriculum essentially. So they have 1 hour of flipped learning, we call it, every single week throughout the entire year, and have done for 4 years now, every course. So that's something that we're lucky to have. And of course, we've got Holly and Sky as a digital team who support all students and all staff with that 1 hour of flipped learning. And that's something that all of us now are going to have on our courses, flipped and blended digital learning. So that induction at the beginning of the year is something that Holly and I literally were talking about an hour or so ago, weren't we, Holly? About how we're going to do it this year.
Yeah, and we've got the opportunity of a bit of spare time at the minute, just to, personally speaking, to put that stuff together. It's really critical this next few weeks, what we do, isn't it?
It really is. This 3-week period, I think, again, Holly and I were talking about that as well. This is a critical time, actually, as the calculated grades started to go in, and we had this little bit of time to reflect and take stock and go again. Vicky B, I can see you're there. You got any questions at all? Anything you want to contribute? I don't know if your mic was working earlier on. If not, don't feel pressure to. Just thought I'd give you the opportunity, that's all. Okay, lovely. It's 3 o'clock already, blimey. Thank you for participating, everyone. Thank you for joining in and joining us for this just a quick informal chat, really. Feel free to follow up with any questions. We're available to help you for a year. Free peer-to-peer, teacher-to-teacher support. Heather's our project manager, and we can connect with you and work with you, and we'd love to. So please get in touch. Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. Cheers.
Anytime, Chris.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you soon.
Bye.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye.